What is up, YouTube world? This is Jay, and I'm back at it again with another manual Outback video. So there has been a lot of chatter in the community recently ever since the previous video that I did live trading Outback. There's a lot of new members that came into TTF community and have expressed their success either demo trading it or live trading it, but it's super cool, and I want to keep bringing some more nuggets of knowledge for y'all. And there was two main questions that people had recently, and is Outback only for the 1 minute and is Outback only for Forex? And I'm happy to say no for both of them. So what's cool is I was able to knock out two birds with one stone and find good settings and a good strategy and a plan for 5-minute indices, specifically for the NAS 100 and the US 30. And so as far as gold and crypto, they're still in the works. There's not really an estimated date for finishing that, but whenever it is updated, it will be posted in the community first and then later made into a YouTube video. So if you are interested in having those updates as soon as possible, please feel free to drop down in the description below, and there will be a link to join TTF community there. And so in this video, what I will be doing is I'll be going over setting it up for 5-minute indices, as far as the settings, the indicators, kind of all my parameters and all that. After that, I will go into replay mode and just go over 2 quick days to give y'all an example of how I go about trading it. And then finally, I'll go over the data very quickly, but what you will know is that the chart layout with all the markups and all the position sizes that I did for backtesting and the data sheet will all be accessible for TTF members. Okay, so looking at the charts, the first thing that we're going to do, as you could tell, we're on the 5-minute NAS 100. And so there are a few indicators that we need here. And so we'll obviously need an SMA, just a simple moving average on our charts. I use the SMA and EMA by Uninspired. You can use any type of SMA indicator that you need. All that is required is that you have a 227 moving average on your chart, as you can see here, this pink line. And then from there, we have our RSI, just a general RSI, so TradingView's RSI Relative Strength Index. And if we look in the settings, I set my RSI length to 618 and I set my MA to 200. And then from there, as you can see down here, we have a whole suite by Insilico. And our whole suite is inside of our RSI. In order to do that, you go hover over your RSI, you click the 3 dots, and you add an indicator strategy on the RSI. You type whole suite by Insilico, and you simply add it into there, and it'll add it on the chart. After you do that, you will click the settings, and then change your length to 227 and your length multiplier to 2. And then from there, the last setting that we have is sessions. I use sessions on chart by Allrocks AIF, or you can use SAM account. Doesn't matter which one. But I already had this one on my chart, so I use this one. And I changed the settings to where it is the last 4 hours of Asian session into London and then into mixed. So I am UTC -5. So for me, that is from 2200 all the way to 1100. And just to be clear, the sessions indicator is set to UTC -4 time zone. So in this case, I'm having to set Tokyo to 2300, so that way on my charts it's 2200. So it's a little annoying. It doesn't link to your time frame, so you have to make sure it doesn't link to your time zone. So you need to make sure that you have that set. And so lastly, what I did was I made Sydney session, as you can see down here. I made it from 1700 to 1715. 1700 for me, as you could see, this price gap, or not the price gap, but the time gap between 1555 to 1700, that is whenever the daily reset happens. And so that's just an easy visual reference for me to know that from here to here is 24 hours. And now come into how I'll be trading this. Without further ado, let's kind of get into how I trade this. Here, what I will look for is the normal Outback confluences, and if you didn't watch the previous video, I'll go over it right here. And so all I'm looking for normally for Forex is I want price to gap far away from the moving average, and then from there price comes back down to cross over. And when this crossover happens, in this case for a sell, whenever the candle crosses over, I want my RSI line to be below my RSI simple moving average and my RSI whole moving average. And so for me, that's a sell. I'll place my stop loss on the swing. In this case, I'd probably lose, but this is May. We're just going to start in June to get our point across. And so that is how you look for a sell. To look for a buy is the complete opposite. To where price has gapped down below the moving average, it comes back to cross up. And in this case, you never get an entry because your RSI line never goes above the RSI simple moving average. So you actually get out of this loss. So that is how you buy and sell, but it's a little different for indices because you only have NAS and US 30 to look at. And so if you're only looking for a gap, that a lot of times you won't really find trades. I do recommend waiting for trends and gaps. That way you catch a really good reversal. But the problem is whenever you're only looking at 1 to 2 pairs, you kind of have to have amazing patience because you won't have trade opportunities lining up on your doorstep, unlike looking at 24x pairs. So gaps don't really matter. I just look for the crossover and the one reward confluence. And so in this case, what I'll do is I am coming into June 1st and I'm only trading this during mixed session. So from 7 to 11 my time, UTC -5. And so mixed session is whenever London and New York markets are open at the same exact time. And so I don't care about indice market open. I am just trading simply these 4 hours. Whether it's before or after indices open does not matter to me. And what I will do first is I use these yellow 24-hour lines as confluence, and I'll at least look at the last 24 hours to mark up a level above or slightly above or slightly below my moving average to give me an idea of where I would target take profits. So in this example, we're about to get into the mixed session, as you can see here. And so what I'll do is I'll look at the past 24 hours and also look a little bit behind if it's not clear to me. And just anything that pops out in my head as a high and a low, I will go for that. So looking above the moving average, as you can see here, what I like is an area somewhere around here as a high, personally. Because while it's past my 24 hours, that's okay. It's above the moving average, so I have something to shoot for if I do go long. And I like a level where it's both support and resistance. It gets tested for both. As you can see, it was resistance here, turned to support, back into resistance, resistance, and resistance. So it's been support and resistance multiple times now, which is very nice, and I really, really like that as a target. And so if I'm looking for a low under here, I could look for something here, but just to get away from the moving average, I'm kind of liking somewhere here, or somewhere here in order to get this wick rejection here. And so looking at the last 24 hours, price hasn't really gotten to this point, but if we were to go left a little more, yeah, as you can see here, it was treated as kind of slightly resistance and support. So I like these as my 2 levels, so I'll just drag this in. So now we have our 2 levels spotted going into mixed session. What we'll do now is we'll wait for something to happen. As you can see here, price breaks through. It's at 655, but if I put a line here, it's very hard to see, but our RSI line has not broken our simple moving average. It doesn't break until the next candle, and luckily for us, the next candle is whenever we'd be entering the markets. And so in this case, what I will do, go long in this scenario, and then as far as my stop loss, I'll put it somewhere around here, just under these wicks. I think are pretty good. It'd be kind of aggressive to put it under this candle, but you could look to do that. But to be more safe, I'll put it right under these wicks, and I will target the bottom of my zone. And this is me being conservative. So whenever you draw a zone or level, wherever you want to call it, in these examples for the backtesting, what I did is after I drew a zone and I went long, I will target the bottom of it, and then if I take a sell or a short, I will target the top of the level that I drawn. Got all my entry criteria to go long. My RSI line is above the simple moving average and my hull. I'm also above the 50 line, which is also another nice additional confluence, and I am above the 227 moving average, so I'm good to go. I just made 2.5% because surprisingly enough, it actually hit my zone, which is kind of cool. And so next example is this. And so in this case, I get a moving average cross, and I look down, my RSI line is below my hull and my simple moving average, so I'll look to place a sell. And so it's a pretty big candle, so I'll only put it at the top of the entry candle here, and then I go to target the top of the zone, but the problem is I only have a 0.82 reward. And one of my criteria is that if I'm looking to enter a trade, whenever I'm about to place a trade, I need to see at least a 1 reward or more. And so since I can't see this, I am not going to take this trade because I'm not looking to target 0.8. It does work out in this case, which is cool, but I drew my level where I wanted to. Do I lose out on a win? Sure, but I'm sticking to my guns. And so you could have potentially looked at a low right here, and it is respected a little bit here, but I was happy where I drew my level. We're going to quickly fast forward through this. Chrissy's going to do her crazy editing abilities, but I'll see y'all soon. As you can see here, we are at the next day, so just pretend we don't see this vertical line of a trade that we placed. And so mixed sessions is about to happen on June 7th, and what we'll do is we'll at least look at the last 24 hours, which as you can see is noted by these 2 yellow lines. We'll look at these last 24 hours. We can also look at like the next 12 hours and also the next 12 hours, depending on if there is like a solid level that you can see is being respected right outside the 24-hour limit. That's completely fine, y'all. 24 hours isn't the perfect time, but it is a good time in order to view things. And so what I am clearly seeing here is a level that is just in between all of this noise. And so if I draw something probably along this, so I'm just trying to collect all the wicks that I can, even going back further, and look how much this has been respected by both support and resistance. I'm pretty confident that this is a pretty good zone, so I'm cool with that being like the high of our moving average. So if we end up getting a buy, we can look to target this area. Looking at the bottom side, it's kind of getting an idea. I'm kind of like in this area here. If we look back, we kind of had a huge rejection from there. So yeah, I'm really liking this. I want to capture this wick as well along these lines. Let's try and grab all the wicks that we possibly can. I'm kind of liking this area. And so if we drag this left, we could see that it kind of captures this huge rejection as well. But it turns into resistance, turns to support, and then support, support, support. So I'm liking this as the low. So now we have our high level, our high zone, and we have our low level and our low zone. So now what we'll do is we'll fast forward. As you can see here on this candle, all our criteria are met to place a trade. Problem is, it's only a 0.5 reward. And so I'm not looking to place this trade, just specifically where we put the zone. The zone saves us, well, we'll see. Let's see if it actually plays out. Depending on where our take profit would have been, our zone basically saves us if we would have gone for more than 1.4 from catching an L, which is very nice. As you can see now is we get a potential buy opportunity here. All our criteria are met, and I put my stop loss probably at the zone, to be honest with y'all. And as you can already see, we lose, but when we target our top level again, we only have an 8.2 reward. So we get out of that trade. We end up evading another loss. We get across here, and then as you can see, you can peek right here. It goes above everything. We get our confluences, all good to go. And I'll look to put my stop loss down here. I'm being very, very passive and conservative. You can put your stop loss here, here, maybe here, but that's kind of pushing it. But here is valid, but I'm gonna put my stop loss basically at the bottom of the swing, and I'm going to target the top of my level, which is 1.5. Since it's 1.5, it is good to go for me to place this trade, and I end up hitting the trade, which is awesome. That's this in a nutshell, to be honest with y'all. Oh, I think I forgot to look at here. I just noticed this. So what I had said previously, normally we look for gaps for Forex and we would look for gaps for indices, but a lot of times indices will play around the moving average. And so if you're all looking to get more entries, you can just play the moving average crossover. I do not recommend that, but it can be done. And so in this case, I would put my stop loss right here, and when we target the zone, we actually do get a 1. So technically this is also a win. This is a sell. But I don't truly recommend trading Outback like this, manual Outback, because it had just crossed the moving average to cross back down. Do you end up getting this 1 reward scalp? Yes, but it will not always work out like this in your favor. And so with that being said, let's get into the data for this really quick. So getting into the data for this, now that you kind of understand an idea of how we mark up everything, how we look for take profits, when to not take trades, we could look at how we did for the backtesting side of things. And so just as a general concept, we started out with $100,000 and we made 92% with about a 62 win rate on 102 trades, which is super cool. NAS did a lot better than US 30, but US 30 still did very solid. And so I'm not going to go into that much detail about the stats. As you can see, everything's kind of laid out for you. Please feel free to pause the video and look at it if you want to. Hey guys, so there was one last thing that I wanted to specifically go over that I forgot to in the initial video. And so what I want to say is that whenever you look back the last 24 hours and you draw your levels, which I clearly did here and here, and so when I go forward with it, this is a valid trade. But the problem is that it broke through my high level that I drew. And so in this case, whenever that happened, I did not place the trades because I did not know where my take profit would be. If anything, it would be at the top of the level, which is here, and it probably wouldn't be valid anyway. And so I wanted to let y'all know that, because there are certain examples where you draw a high and you draw a low level, and price ends up breaking high of it or breaking low below it. And so in that case, I actually just don't place a trade. Should you not place a trade? It depends. Like, it might visually, like, price action just might make sense to you and you're cool with placing that trade. But as far as Outback's concerned and this specific way of trading it on the 5-minute indices, from what I found, is that I simply, if it broke through my levels, if it broke outside the levels, I just didn't place a trade there, because those were the levels that I thought price would basically reach that day and not break. And so if they do break it, I don't place a trade. And I did miss a few trades, and so now I'm going back and double checking myself. As you could see, NAS went from like 68 win rate to 63. I mean, it's still good. Like I've only lost like from 91% to like 88.7. But as you can see here, win rate does go down a little bit, which is whatever. But I'm going through and checking over all the trades that I've done just to make sure everything's good for you guys. The main reason for that is, like, I placed this trade, but I forgot to place these 2 trades, which are valid, and as you can see, they're stacking with them, and price isn't moving anywhere in this example. But just to stay with all of my entries, all of these are valid entries that you could potentially place. Do I recommend it? No, but that's okay. And as you can see here, a lot of consolidation. It does break through here somewhat, but anywho, I'm going back through and making sure everything's good to go. That way, whenever this does go public and you'll see this, everything is tested and everything is where it should be for y'all to double check. And yeah, I'll catch y'all later. Peace. And without further ado, I hope y'all like this video, and feel free to let us know what you like about this, what you would want to see more in the future. And I truly hope that y'all find success in your trading journeys, whether it's Outback or whether it's price action, whatever you desire. I hope that you find success in it, and I wish y'all the best. Catch y'all later. Peace.